Mother-in-law has always assumed I was trouble. Becoming pregnant at 26 after being with her son for 2 years almost made her have a stroke, but ended up breaking up then, as he wasn't ready to be a father. 3 years fast forward, we are back together and working on us, plus our little family. Mother-in-law kept her distance, but couldn't stop running her mouth about issues in our relationship. My boyfriend at the time gave her an ultimatum: apologize or be put in no contact. She apologized and seemed generally sorry, but we kept our distance. Fast forward to start of last year when we get married. Mother-in-law didn't show up, but said congratulations to her son. What I just found out a couple days ago was that mother-in-law had been trying to find her son a wife for the past couple months. Apparently, this search has been going on since I was 5 months pregnant with our son. She'd message any woman she saw fit and made up a story that son was about to be cut off from his inheritance if he didn't marry before he turned 35. She had been doing this for months while acting all friendly to me. When I had our son last month, she wanted to be the first of extended family to meet the baby and insisted on coming over every day. Thankfully, my husband told her we'd need more time, as we were quarantining. Mother-in-law told him she had been quarantining as well, but he still said no to her. So she blamed me and acted like I told him to say it and continued searching for a wife for him. Thankfully, she ran her mouth to a friend of mine, who my friend told my mother-in-law that she was happily married herself, but didn't mention the fact of us knowing each other. Later, my friend sent me the message as proof, as she told me what happened. I was not happy. I told my husband, and he told me he had a girlfriend in between the time we were separated, that mother-in-law did the same thing to her, but looking for a girlfriend for him. He couldn't believe her behavior and called her to confront her about it. After her denying it, and my husband saying he would make it publicly well known to people on Facebook what she had been up to, she admitted to doing it that one time. My husband told her we would speak to her in a month's time. In that time, she better apologize to my friend and have an apology ready for when we talk to her again, because she wasn't getting in the way of our marriage or family. Mother-in-law threw a fit and said we couldn't do that, which we did, then cried to sister-in-law, who rang her brother to demand what was going on. The moment my husband told her, sister-in-law told us mother-in-law had drunkenly told her she had been going at it for months, said it wasn't worth it, trouble a bad mother. Sister-in-law only held out telling us, for she wanted evidence first, just in case mother-in-law denied doing it. My husband broke no contact, I know, bad choice, with his mom, that he now knew much more she was letting on, and until she came to terms being together, she had no contact with us or the kids. Our marriage wasn't her choice if who married who. Mother-in-law blew up, had a complete scream match about me over the phone, about how evil I was and all this. At the end, she told my husband that she didn't have to like me, but I was going to get along with her because I had no other choice. Let me get this straight. You married her son, and she's been trying to find him a new wife who will be submissive to her demands, while expecting you to still be nice to her? Wow, the entitlement of this mother-in-law. I know this isn't about a mother-in-law, more about how my terrible sister-in-law treats my mother-in-law. Okay, so a bit of background. My husband's brother is a 22-year-old in his last year of college, and a year ago met a 32-year-old woman who already had a 17-year-old. We were all a little suspect of her because she's not been allowing my once very social brother-in-law out with his friends, and even to meet my husband and I for dinner. My brother-in-law also has not been on a night out with his friends, which was a weekly occurrence for him before he met sister-in-law, or even met up with them at all, has deleted his Facebook, etc. My brother-in-law is a good guy, but is very easily led. On top of that, she'd only been dating him a few months before she convinced him to drop out of college, as studying for college meant that he couldn't spend enough time with her. She also paid for him to get her and her daughter's name tattooed on his chest. She is well known as a compensation queen. In the year we've known her, she successfully sued 5 different businesses for monies because of something very minor, like she was in their store and she supposedly cut herself on the cart, which caused emotional damage, as well as a trip to the ER. I swear on my life I wish I was making this up. This is what I'm living with. I am polite and friendly to her, but I don't like her. Anyway, When they'd only been dating 2 months, sister-in-law decides to book a $6,000 two-week all-inclusive vacation to Jamaica for April this year. So at that time, 9 months away, it was one of those pay a deposit now, pay later deals. Apparently, my sister-in-law was planning on paying it when her compensation money came in, as both of them are on minimum wage jobs, and there's no way they'd be able to save that up so soon, 2 months before the vacation, when the balance was due. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law go to my in-laws, who don't have a lot of money, and my sister-in-law starts crying, saying that finances are so tough and they're not going to be able to pay for their holiday because her compensation hasn't come through yet. It was going to take another couple of months. My mother-in-law, who isn't the brightest crayon in the box, paid for their holiday on a credit card, and she was promised as soon as sister-in-law's compensation came through, she'd be reimbursed. It wouldn't be something I'd do, but I think my mother-in-law knew how much her son was looking forward to his vacation and trusted completely she'd get the money back to pay off her credit card. Spoiler, she hasn't. In the 2 months between this and going on vacation, my sister-in-law mysteriously went into hospital for a couple of days and came out much bigger chest up, bandaged up. My husband hears from brother-in-law that she had her chest enlarged in preparation for her vacation of a lifetime. But brother-in-law genuinely believed she got it on her insurance. BS. What we think has happened is her compensation money went in. She'd booked a breast enlargement, then had no money left over to pay for the holiday, and had the fantastic idea that my in-laws can put it on their card, and she'll pay them up when they come back. Surprise, surprise. They come back from their holiday, and sister-in-law announces that she's 8 weeks pregnant. Sister-in-law, in a roundabout way, says there's no way they'll be able to save up for a baby, get their own place, if they're going to pay back $4,000. My father-in-law at first protested, and sister-in-law made brother-in-law not speak to them for a week, even though he was secretly texting us to say that he missed us and he was sorry. My mother-in-law and father-in-law then decided, for the sake of drama, to pay off the $4,000 themselves, out of their wages per month, and goodness only knows what they'll pay in interest once it's paid off. So their son wouldn't be cut out of their lives, especially since there's a grandchild in the way. I'm dreading having someone like her in my life now. My brother-in-law is a good guy, but he's so easily presided, and there's no talking to him about his girlfriend, even by my husband. So that's my story. I'm sorry I seem like such a horror, venting about her, but as she isn't doing anything directly to my husband and I yet, it's none of my business, and I can't vent to anyone in real life about her. Otherwise, it'll come off as witchy. Phew, that felt good to let off some steam. You don't sound like a horror for venting. She sounds like a nightmare. Your poor brother is stuck in a bad relationship, controlling when he can talk to his family. She also sounds terrifying to be around, with her constant search for lawsuits. This happened years ago. My then future dear husband and I are no longer together, so it's not my problem anymore. We were together 20 years and married 13. I have enough stories to write a book, but I thought I would share this one. It's a long story. We were living on the opposite side of the country from where we were getting married, because my family and extended family are very close and much larger than his. We decided to get married where I grew up, and the handful of relatives he knew at all were easier to fly than all of mine. I arrived a week before the wedding, because planning a wedding from across the country is hard. My mom and aunt were a huge help. I checked on everything, and when I say almost nothing went as it was supposed to, I mean the cake, the catering, the priest. Everything went wrong that week. The cake maker backed out last minute. The priest canceled all weddings for that week, and the caterer doubled the price last minute. The flowers were wrong. It was an actual disaster. My future dear husband was arriving with his parents 3 days before the wedding. We paid for the wedding completely on our own. It was 150 people from all over the country. I was stressed out, but managing to keep it together and got everything back on track. However, I needed help, so I was anxious for future dear husband to arrive because I was exhausted. Also 3 months pregnant with twins. I had made a hair appointment for future dear husband the day he arrived because he didn't have time for one before his flight. This is where things started to go sideways. He didn't show up. I couldn't reach him. I called his parents and they wouldn't tell me where he was. Okay, why can't I know where he is? He missed his haircut. We get married in 3 days. Things are chaos. Where the duck is he? Nope, wouldn't tell me. I was fuming, but trying to slog through last-minute arrangements. He finally called that night around 7 p.m. His brother took him bowling and whale watching. Okay. You had a haircut, and I needed help. He was apologetic, but then blew that out of the water to tell me his father wanted a rehearsal dinner after the wedding rehearsal the next day. We had said no to this numerous times. It was too cramped for time, and we wanted a brunch the day after the wedding with parents and wedding party instead. Well, apparently, his father insisted and booked a restaurant. I still needed to iron out last-minute details and still didn't have a wedding cake. I didn't have time. Too bad. We were having rehearsal dinner, and his father insisted on paying. Future Just No father-in-law was terrible at the dinner. He insulted my mother and my aunt, who was in the wedding party, because he didn't think they had dressed for the occasion. They had no notice and had been decorating all day. Then were told to show up to a rehearsal dinner with no time to change. They live an hour away. After dinner was over, he asked if anyone would like dessert and insisted we all order something because, we had plenty of time to drag this out. Dessert was ordered. I thanked him, as did everyone, for dinner, and we all went on our way. They insisted their son go with them. He agreed. Future Just No father-in-law proceeded to complain loudly to my future dear husband that dinner was too expensive and that everyone ordered dessert, and that was rude. Wedding day. I found out just before the wedding that future Just No mother-in-law and future Just No father-in-law tried to talk my future dear husband out of the wedding and to return home. Remember, I am pregnant with twins. We were engaged for 1.5 years. The babies were wanted, just ahead of schedule, and it wasn't a shotgun wedding. Then, future Just No mother-in-law shows up in a light silver, not quite white, dress. The wedding dress was white and silver, but okay. We get through the wedding. His father and mother are super drunk at the reception before dinner is even served. They complain about dinner. Then, his father makes a very long and unwanted toast in what was supposed to be an impression of the Queen's voice. My Just No brother-in-law insulted every aspect of the wedding, including my grandfather. The wedding was finally over, and we left. His parents apparently decided to book a room at the same bed and breakfast that we booked our honeymoon room in, for that night. So they were there waiting when we arrived, where his mother informed us that she had taken the liberty of hijacking the first 4 days of our honeymoon, and that we were going to go with her family to visit family friends. Nope, not happening. They didn't buy us a wedding gift because his mother insisted on giving us $3,000 for our honeymoon. I didn't like the idea at all. I wanted to pay for it ourselves, but she insisted because her father had done it for her and it was important to her. So, over my objections, my dear husband had agreed, and so we didn't book anything because she kept forgetting to give us the check. She just said, "Put it on your card, and when the bill comes, I will pay for it." I hated the idea, but dear husband insisted. Well, guess what happened? She didn't pay for it. She left us with $2,500 on our credit card, just after paying for a wedding. The reason? They paid for the rehearsal dinner. Remember the one I insisted we didn't want and begged not to have? That one. The one dear husband let his father force on us. Oh well, they are no longer my problem. Just a note. They came to visit us. We moved away from them to avoid divorce on our first wedding anniversary and stayed 2 weeks. I'm guessing they contributed to your divorce. I bet they were a blast when the children came into the picture. It did. My ex refused to stand up to his parents, and this was one of the less terrible things they did. He let them treat me like crap for years. They actually haven't had a lot to do with our kids. They throw money at them at Christmas, and that's about the extent of their relationship. My husband is in the military. Obviously, it's super hard to go visit family just whenever he wants. He probably sees his family every 6 months to a year. He was supposed to see his sister get married a couple months ago, but she ended up postponing her wedding until next year. When she postponed, she started talking about coming to visit us in September. No specific date, but usually when there's no specifics, no visits happen. All talk, no action. I told my husband from the beginning that I wasn't too comfortable with the idea and that maybe we should look at other dates at a later month. He agreed. This month has been hell, and we're not even 2 weeks in. I'm in school full-time, my kids are being virtual schooled, and my husband has only been home 1 week in the last month and a half. On top of that, my kids have their activities and appointments. I have my own stuff and an autoimmune disorder. Yes, her potentially bringing you-know-what scares me. That likes to just act up whenever it wants. I was updating appointments and activities in my planner when my husband said, "Oh hey, my sister will be here on dates XYZ." I straight looked at him and said, "No, not happening." I stated my reasons from the last paragraph. I told him that I was overly stressed and that the week she comes in, I'm going to need the office, which is where we keep the guest bed, more than ever to study and do my projects and papers. He was upset and we had a small fight, but he understood. He texted his sister and said now wasn't a good time and to figure out some other dates. She flipped out. She called my phone telling me that I'm not the boss, I'm an a-hole, and that she'll be damned if she lets me tell her that I can't come visit. That my reasons were lame and to suck it up. I feel like the a-hole because I'd love my husband to see his family. He can't leave to see them, and I'm saying no. My husband is now starting to lean toward me an a-hole too, and just to let her visit to keep the peace. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for not letting her visit? Edit. I spoke with my husband before he left for work this morning. He apologized for being an a-hole. He feels bad because he made a promise to their mom before she passed that he would keep the family together with visits and such, and he feels like he's going against that word. I told him about the phone call with his sister, and he ripped her a new one. She's still adamant that she wants to visit now and not at a later date. He said no. Plus, he just got word this morning that he may have to travel again. For those saying for me to get the hotel, I'd love to, but I cannot afford it, and my son has autism and is my husband's stepson, and he would freak out if I was gone for a weekend. They get along fine, but he gets weird when I'm gone for longer than a few hours. Also, for those in my inbox asking why I'm wasting your time because I'm clearly not the a-hole, I feel like an a-hole badly because he hasn't been home in a year, and I know he misses everyone, and I just straight said no. I have compromised for other days, but she doesn't want it. Not the a-hole. She isn't entitled to stay at your house. Is there any way she can stay at a local hotel or something? And your husband can just travel a short distance every day and spend time with her that way. She could maybe still visit, just not at your house.